I think it underlies different focuses. If it's the FTC, it'll always be about competition, it'll always be about the economic impacts. Whereas the Department of Justice means that we're focusing more on a broader spectrum of harms. And I think that's more in line with the sort of the EU approach. And so I personally would rather have the Department of Justice taking over. But if you're a company, you might prefer the FTC.
Right. Now, just tell us what this means for investors, because there were some early nerves that any probe, any antitrust probe or investigation would be negative for these companies that have been contending with a series of issues, some of them more than others. I mean, Facebook, obviously, rather than the likes of Amazon, has been a trickier trade for investors. Is there anything to be scared about? Because one of the analysts said this is going to be a 5-year story at best, really, for some of these companies. How negative can it be?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that there's no immediate worry. A lot of these cases take 5 or 10 years. Cases with Microsoft around competition have taken nearly a decade to settle. But if you're looking in the long term, it might give you some concern that these companies might be broken up in the future.
Which would be a positive, though, wouldn't it? Because the analysts went down that path and said, well, if you had to, say, break up Google, then that would be positive for investors. That would unlock some premium.
Maybe, but I suppose my perspective that it might be not positive for society as a whole. That there are lots of benefits from having these large agglomerations, that the network effects, that Google is a great search engine, it provides lots of useful results. And so breaking up is just going to leave you with lots of smaller companies that don't do as well and can't capture as much consumer attention.
And what about Elliot, if you broaden this out and say, what about crypto? What about regulation of crypto? Because that's got to be the next step. And after all, many of these companies are actually trying to move into that space as well.
I mean, I'm not much of an expert in crypto, so I'm not entirely sure. But I think it is a good step overall that it shows America is taking tech regulation a bit more seriously. I think Europe has been leading on this for quite a while, and America has been quite reticent because of the competition effects. But I think it's a good sign that they're taking things seriously, including crypto and these other things.
Sure, just about your point, Karen, and then bringing it back to you, Elliot, as well. Breaking up companies will be broken up. It implies an anti-oligopolistic environment. But actually, the companies themselves are very often breaking. We hear all the time from these amazingly smart young financiers coming out of McKinsey and everywhere saying, oh, you should break your company up because we don't like conglomerates in it as well. Exactly. So why do you think that breaking up these companies will necessarily be bad for the consumer?
I think because this is a different case. These aren't conglomerates. I think, well, to some extent they are, but if you take Facebook, the main thing it's doing is advertising. It's got one business model, and that's just a massive, massive business. So whereas conglomerates, you might say they're doing many different things and need to be broken up. For Facebook or Google, advertising is its main revenue stream, so you can't really break that up.
Okay, well, Amazon.
I think there is a better case for Amazon than there is for these other companies. That it's kind of double dealing. It runs this marketplace, but then it sells its own products in there too.
Yeah.
Well, just on the Facebook argument, though, I mean, is it really going to matter to me as a consumer if Facebook is no longer part of Instagram, no longer part of WhatsApp, because I get served ads that are slightly less relevant to me? Does it really matter?
I don't think it matters to a great extent if they're disaggregating those, but it does matter to some extent on the investment that goes into these companies. But I think there is some benefit from having these large companies that have a large amount to do R&D to develop these services further, whereas if they're all competing on the edge and have no margins, they can't really afford to invest in the future.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.